I've made over 6 figures in 3 months monetizing AI for businesses.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to ChiroX, where we talk business growth for, chiropractors. Today's guest asked God for a sign that she should sell her practice, and 3 days later, she fell in her own backyard, breaking her wrist. Apparently, that was the sign that she needed. Dr. Courtney built a thriving maternal wellness practice over 13 years in Dallas, but it started with $6,000 to her name in her basement. Eventually grew it to 10 providers and sold the practice just this May. Since the sale, she's been able to take 600 other chiropractors around the world on her retreats called Wanderlearn. She also launched She Adjusts, which is a mastermind community for female chiropractors. And one more thing, she also built an AI agency where she's already cleared 6 figures in just under 3 months. In this episode, we get into the exit story and why she decided to sell her practice, why she decided to move her model to a membership practice, which I found very interesting myself, and the patterns she sees with chiropractors over and over again as they reach burnout and eventually join her on one of her retreats. Let's get into it. Courtney, welcome to the show. How are we doing today?
Thank you. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. I did a little bit of digging and kind of what you're up to. And so I want to jump into things right away. And so you kind of have these two sides to your story that I feel like, I'm sure there's more to it, but for the sake of this conversation, there's the opening, running, building, selling a practice. And now there's the other community side of the practice where you talk to all sorts of other chiropractors and masterminds. And I see you do retreats and all sorts of fun stuff. But can we maybe go back to the last few years of your career and kind of like, where did you start? What did things look like in the beginning? Like, what were some of the things that even got you going into the industry? Let's take us back a little bit to some of the earlier days.
I love that. Well, way back in the beginning, I was a D1 athlete, and I think a lot of us have the same story of, hey, you know what, chiropractic gave me my game back, gave me my life back, allowed me to practice, allowed me to play at an elite level. And so naturally dove into chiropractic to help people, and then fell in love with the moms and the babies when I was in school. And I was one of those that just was a hustler and a grinder. I had probably $6,000 to my name with graduating, student loans, like all, you name it. And failure was never an option, because being an athlete, you win, like that's just your mindset. So coming straight out of school, that was a big part of it. So I started in the basement of a building, $6,000 to my name. And then every time I would get a new patient or have a good month or have an extra $200 or $300, I would buy a rug, or I would go and it was just, that was like very humble roots beginning. And I always just wanted to be a mom, and I wanted to just have like a small practice, be a mom, and just kind of flow. God had other plans. And so I was blessed to be able to be a mom, have 3 daughters. And then 2 years into practice, I was given the opportunity to take over from that basement the entire 3 levels of a 3,000 square foot old Victorian home, and then built a thriving maternal wellness clinic that we had 10 providers everywhere from midwives, pelvic floor PT, IV, ozone, chiropractic, all with vitalism at its core. And so I was able to kind of build and grow that over the years. And the cool thing about it is God used that really dark time after my first, I had terrible postpartum depression. And it came from a really honest place of building that business and saying, you know what? We're going to use this as a testimony to help and serve other mothers that are going through this. And so that was the heart behind building the Nest and that community-driven vitalistic model.
Yeah. I'd be curious as to then how much of the fact that it was a niche practice led to, I guess, the success and the ability to be able to build this practice. Because I've had this conversation a handful of times now, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I think obviously it's very person dependent, which obviously but I'm curious for you personally, was like, how much of a role did the fact that it was more of a pediatrics play into actually building that practice?
I naturally have ADHD. If you look at my business resume, like they're all over the map. And so what I think it really helped me personally was to focus on one clientele. And that was, I learned the language. My website spoke directly to the mother who was struggling with all these things that we really helped with. And then it tailored my marketing and my relationships to the OBs, the pediatricians, the midwives, the PTs, and I had one clear message. And so for someone like me, if you like have a ton of ideas, you want to help and you want to serve everybody, that was a huge blessing of being able to say, you know what, you're going to focus on this one population and become the expert in that. And so I saw that too. Whenever I was going through school, everybody was learning like dry needling and PT and all laser and XYZ. And all we did in our clinic ever was adjust. And I said, you know what? Like we can be jack of all trades or be an expert at one thing. And I became like the top pediatric adjuster that I knew how to. And so that was like my bread and butter. And I said, hey, you know what? Why don't we bring in pelvic floor PT? Why don't we bring in an acupuncturist who are the best of the best? And so that focus niched us down. But at the same time, we had all those offerings, but we were all masters of our craft.
Are you familiar with Kane's Chicken?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I studied that model in school.
Okay. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Well, then you understand where I'm going with this. So
Yeah.
Todd Graves, the founder of Kane's Chicken, has this really great quote, and he says, "Find a simple idea and take it seriously."
Mm,
And I just continue to see this again and again. There's just so many examples of this, both in obviously the restaurant industry is an easy one to point out of like, Kane's Chicken or In-N-Out Burger or whatever, name your
mhm.
restaurant. But I think it's equally true of what I've seen with a lot of chiropractic practitioners as well. I mean, there's a lot of docs out there, right? And for
Yeah.
the ones that really want to stand out in their marketplace and to grow, 7, potentially 8-figure practice, I think one of the easiest ways to stand out is to understand that differentiator and really kind of lean into it as opposed to being the catch-all. I think there's like the counter argument is always that like, oh, there's more than enough people to serve, which is true. But from a branding, marketing, messaging, speaking to your customer, yeah, I'm just curious as your thoughts on that of like how much intention you put into that as you were continuing to grow it and add in other things. Is like, did you fall back on like we need to stay in our lane? Like how did you navigate that?
Well, I just think that where you look at new patients and you say, okay, there's a funnel, right? You have this huge funnel. I'm in Dallas. We have millions of people that live here. Talk about like our abundance in like Facebook ads and targeting and geocaching and all these things that we can actually, or geofencing, and all the things that we can actually do to bring this large funnel into your door. But I think people do fall off because people are being hit every single day. Our brain is a deletion system, not a memory system. So there's so many things coming. And if you're speaking to the pain points to your ideal audience, then they're going to be coming into that funnel closer and closer. And so being able to answer those questions of the pain point, come to the table with a solution and be able to say, hey, you know what? We are the experts. We know exactly what we're doing with this. I think that was a big, big advantage. But I think that once you start to look at it like, wow, there's so much here, but people are hit so much every single day with so much information that they're focused on that. If you have a baby that is not feeding and losing weight and can't latch, that's all you're going to think about as a mother. And so if you show up with that pain point and the answer to that, then I think that you can kind of step into that, like clear being an expert of it.
I've never heard that said that the brain is a deleting machine. It's accurate though, right? Is like I think the
Mhm.
statistic around it is that 99.9% of all the information coming in us at any given moment is essentially just ignored for the
Yep,
most part.
exactly. Yeah. And it's the
Um,
things you're really caring about that stick or in a season of life that you're at. Like right now, it's like we're building and you're focused on one thing or you're going through something hard. Like I'm going to be digesting and curating all the things that I can to learn about that subject.
yeah, yeah. I would say a question the listener can ask themselves is probably like, what is the word or phrase you want to be known for? Because it's very
Mm.
likely that anything more than a word or phrase is probably going to be forgettable for the most part.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I think that too, that as a business owner, the more clear that you are, the more that you're going to manifest opportunities.
totally.
Like it's that clarity and you know when to say yes.
Why did you decide to ultimately sell it then? So how long did it take you to build this practice, and then what came to the point of wanting to exit? I guess I should say.
It's just a wild ride. I built the practice over 13 years and it was my identity, kind of like going through, I'll go back to my college athlete years of like, hey, like you are an athlete through and through, like that's who you are. And then that transitioned, that identity went into chiropractic, and I am a chiropractor. Like I am going to just like, this is live, eat, breathe, sleep. And that practice was my identity. It's what I fought for my divorce. It was like everything. It was my baby, my very first baby. And so I host retreats all around the world, and I get to see these huge breakthroughs from chiropractors, and I feel like it's a continuous state of evolution. And there was a moment where I was at a healing retreat in Costa Rica that we were hosting, and Devin Brana, she was one of my co-hosts, and she asked a question. She said, "Next year, if you are in the same place as you are this year in this moment, where will you be?" And in my mind, I instantly, innately just said dead, because I am doing so much, putting so many plates in the air, juggling so much. Like, I cannot, like, the capacity is capped. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, well, like, what is next? Like, what is something that I really need to get clarity of what my next evolution is as an entrepreneur, chiropractor, healer? And it was an innate download. It said, sell your practice, take the risk, see what's next. And so it was just, that was the meditation that kept coming through. And I was like, like, this is my livelihood. This is my income. This is my identity. This is something that I have built, like, heart and soul poured into it. If you have your practice, you know exactly that feeling. And I like wrestled with it for a few weeks, and I came home from that trip and I prayed about it, and I was like, okay, God, like, if you want me to sell, and if this was like truly Holy Spirit coming through, like, what, give me a sign. Like, I need a sign, I need a conversation, maybe something. 3 days later, I'm out in my backyard, and there's random. My dog has never gotten a fight ever. She's a Vizsla. She's so kind. She gets in a fight with another dog. My kids are swimming, and I run across my backyard, and it's limestone all around the backyard, and I slip. Legs go up in the air, and I catch myself, foosh, fracture, fall on an outstretched hand. I've never broken a bone in my body. And I, in that moment, cracked my right hand, my wrist in half. And I knew it was broken, like, the moment I fell and got up. And I honestly laughed. I was like, huh, okay, God, like, there's my sign. And it was just, I don't know. I don't know if that's how a lot of your lives are listening to this, but whenever you just like, hey, I need a sign, like, I have this idea, but there's a lot of fear surrounding it. And that was just like my little kick in the rear to say, you know what, like, this is right. I've got you. Your next step or your next chapter is beautiful. Take the step, step out in faith. And then through that journey, I learned so much. I had no plans of selling the past 5 years. You know, it's just like, oh no, like, I'm gonna be practicing till I'm 95, like a lot of us do. And so I know business, but I was never planning an exit. And so I put everything together, and I just really started to understand what it takes to sell a business and how to do it well. Learned a lot of lessons along the way. And it was another God thing that I was like, okay, I put it out there. I did one little post in our women chiropractic group, and I had about 5 buyers that month. And it was just kind of like, you know what, I want somebody to take over that is in alignment, that is like really, truly going to carry this mission forward. I think all of us as practice owners, we want our baby to like go on to the next level and thrive. And I was going through the interviews, kind of starting some LOIs with people. And then two students that I mentored over the years, they came in and they were like, hey, like, we're really called to buy this practice. And I was like, what? Like, okay. And didn't even cross my mind. And fast forward, and they were the perfect fit for what we were doing. And it just was the smoothest. And I texted them at the end of our due diligence process, and I was like, I don't know if selling a business is supposed to be this easy, but this has been one of the most like streamlined, simple, system like things I've done. And I was like, I think it's because it's anointed, and it's just like very clear of like what is supposed to be happening. So it's just so much learned along that journey, and it's just been such a sweet thing seeing them steward, take over. And I was like, listen, it's work. You know, like, running a business, it looks like a cakewalk from the outside, but the ins and outs, especially whenever you're changing the identity of the soul of the practice, then there's a lot that goes into that. So it's been fun to kind of steward and see that over the past few months.
Yeah, especially in the chiropractic industry where so many practices are built on the back of the doctor literally themselves. And you will have some
Mhm.
patient churn, unarguably. I mean, it's pretty tough to avoid that on some level. How much of it you
Oh
can
yeah.
prevent is like obviously take some due diligence. But I also, it's funny, I also broke my radial, another foosh. I did mine snowboarding, but but
Still wild, right? And
yeah,
it was, you took 3 months. I had to take 3 months off of practice, and I was like,
yeah.
I've never taken that long off of it.
Yeah. How that's pretty interesting to me that you posted it and I'm assuming a chiropractic Facebook group and then like people just
Mhm.
were they students? Were they other owners in Dallas? Like how did you find buyers or like I don't
Yeah, so that was like one of the biggest things too. And it actually led me to open my own brokerage, all powered by AI. So I started my own brokerage because every single one that I spoke to was dated. I built them AI tools and they laughed at me. I was like, what are you doing? I'm not printing this form, sending it into you, and having you take 2 weeks to do my valuation. Like, this is bizarre. But to answer your question, Women Chiropractors, it's the WDC, and they have a nonprofit, but they have a chiropractic group of 10,000 female chiropractors. And they have 80 posts a day that are churning through there. So it's a very highly engaged Facebook group. I'm one of the platinum members in there, and so that allows us to kind of post and have community at a higher level of networking and then putting our things out there. So I was able to post it there, and it was just from that one single post that I had at least 5 buyers lined up.
And what made it interesting to buyers? I'm just thinking to the listener
Totally.
of because like that's a I've had a handful of conversations about this if anybody wants to check out previous episodes, but like how do you make a business or specifically a chiropractic business sellable? Because like most of them aren't, to be transparent.
I think no, they're not because they're owner dependent, they're personality driven, and they're not a brand. Like Dr. Courtney Chiropractic is not something that Joe Schmo wants to buy down the road. And so I think that understanding the logistics and thankfully, innately, about a year and a half ago, I transitioned our entire practice to membership. And so the idea that an owner can step in with recurring revenue, an already established brand, you want to look at the profit margins. And that's always attractive because you can have $1 million practice, but a 10% profit margin because all your overhead is going out. So just knowing that, I think the most attractive things is brand identity, recurring revenue, and profit margins, and being able to state those clearly because a lot of chiropractic is just what we spoke about. It's like it's your heart, it's your soul, it's lovey-dovey, but a business evaluation is numbers and it's a math equation. And I think that if you can prove predictable income, low stress, low overhead, then that's attractive to, I think, a lot of people either expanding their business or coming out of school.
What do you think is a really healthy margin for a chiropractic business if you had to throw a number around that?
I mean, maybe 30%. I
Okay,
think that that's probably a healthy one to be at.
cool. And then from a like a evaluation standpoint and like how long did this whole thing take in order to get from like buyer to seller and brokerage like what did this process
Right.
look like?
It took way too long to get the valuation. So I was like, no, 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 no. So I'm the person that's like ADHD, right? That's like, you know what? That's a problem. I'm going to build something to solve it. So going through, I had it professionally evaluated and it took way too long, but I started the process in October and officially signed the sale of the practice in May.
Oh,
So it was, I guess what, October, November, December, 6-ish months.
okay.
But that's not the case for a lot of businesses. And that's not a lot of case for a lot of chiropractic businesses, just because of things that we spoke about. But I think that there's a better way to do it, a quicker, easier way, especially with AI coming up and the ability to just say, hey, if you know your numbers, if you know your business, like here's a tool that you can actually get your valuation and start to plan your exit as you go and know that there's so many options for chiropractors out there as they're kind of thinking that role of the next step and phase in life.
This isn't legal advice to the listener, but I got to tell you
Yeah,
this, Courtney.
exactly.
But so funny enough, recently got married here a couple of months ago, and my wife and I did we were originally going to do a prenup, but then we never got the paperwork done, so we ended up doing a postnup because like we were trying to line up with the accountant or whatever, or the lawyer or whatever it was. And we were going back and forth with this person, trying to figure it out, and yada yada yada. And I don't know how much you know how much that costs, but we found out that it basically costs roughly like $5,000 per person to get like the paperwork for that. And I about crap my pants. And I was like, there is no way I'm dropping 10 grand just to get this paperwork all figured out. So, fun fact, again, this is not legal advice, but we used AI to formulate the entire thing, ask us all the questions that we needed to, write it up in Texas law. We live in Austin. And then we only had to essentially pay like $30 for a notary. So we basically saved ourselves 10 grand by not having to go to a legal
No,
professional.
absolutely. And it's just like all these things that are just completely changing the game, especially in chiropractic with the access of and implementation of knowledge.
Mhm.
Like usually something that would take you 6 months, tens and thousands of dollars, now takes 2 hours and $30. It's
Yes.
insane.
Yes. Again, I'm not trying to give legal advice, but yeah, I was like, I can't believe how much money that just saved us to like, because it really wasn't even like a big deal about. We were just doing it just because like we thought
It's
it was a good
smart.
idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very
Not
smart.
because
I've been
like we
there.
were
I just went
super
through a
concerned.
divorce 5 years ago. Like that's
Yeah,
something that you have to take care of yourself.
yeah,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
that's
Um,
funny.
But can you talk about the membership model? I'm curious about that. I feel like this is something that I actually recently went to a conference, the Remarkable Practice Group, and that was one of the things I started hearing more about was
Mhm.
practices kind of like shifting into more of a quote unquote membership model. What did that look like for you, or what does that even look like for even some of the people in your community that you've seen be successful?
It started as a necessity because I am hosting these events through Wanderlearn all over the world. And I'm traveling like 2 times a month internationally. And so I would be gone and then would have my associates running the practice. And the trend that I started noticing whenever we started hosting more events was our patients would say, oh, I'll just wait until Courtney comes back and I'll see her then. And so whenever I would travel, we would have this huge dip in revenue. And when I came back, it would come back and it was just like this like up and down roller coaster of revenue that was not predictable. And so for me, for my practice, that was something I was like, hey, we cannot have that anymore. And so January 1st, 2 years ago, I think, is whenever I started the membership model. And we're family practice, we're wellness based. So we don't do these big care plans. We don't do like the big upfront cost. A lot of people are coming to us because they're pregnant and they want to have a better pregnancy and
Mhm.
their kid just wants their nervous system tuned up. And so we've adapted our model to our messaging and we just created a sustainable family plan for families to see us long term. So it's price per person. They get 4 adjustments a month. If they need to add more to that, we have it prorated where they just say, okay, here's your add-on, and they just pop it on to their bill, and then they're able to charge that. So
Hmm.
very simple, very clear, like completely.
So it's one flat rate. You get 4 adjustments per month, and then if you want to add, you just pay like a la carte type deal. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
totally. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we did.
Interesting. Have you seen this work well? I mean, yeah, give us like I guess the pros and cons of like what you've seen maybe in your own practice or other practices that have done this similar model.
I took it from a lot of the businesses here in Dallas are membership based.
Hmm.
Like you join a gym, like that your monthly fee is coming out because you want to invest in working out. But everything here in Dallas, from IVs to your tanning to your hair, your facials, has really transitioned over to that membership model. And I was like, if I'm paying a monthly membership for 2 facials a month, why can we not do this same model to chiropractic? And so I was really drawn personally to the simplicity of it because in my mind, I was building an entire other company. I needed the headspace to like build and grow, but also the predictability and the sustainability of the membership model. Downside to that is there's a lot of practices that have those care packages that are really high in revenue. And so you're not getting that injection of like four, six, $12,000 for the care plans, but you are trading that off for the predictability. A lot of our patients have been with us for 10 years, and so it's just like, how did we create that one model that allowed us to operate in that predictable income? And also, our overhead is very low, almost a zero overhead practice besides payroll. And so that was something that really, I think it's a very specific model that you can implement into. But I know that it's not a right fit for a lot of practices, but for some, it is. It's wonderful.
Why wouldn't it be a right fit for a practice? Because again, I've had this conversation a few times now, and it just seems like both from a business standpoint and a customer or patient standpoint, it feels like it's shifting that direction regardless. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
people are just so much more comfortable having a reoccurring income that looks just like their Netflix. And it's like, well, yeah, this
Yes.
is for my health. And it's like, why would I not do this? Especially, I mean, I guess too, is there's a conversation there where it's around cash-based insurance. Like if you're already willing to invest cash into your practice and having this essentially health membership, why would they not? So I guess I'm just wondering is like, why wouldn't it be a good idea? I guess. I
You
don't
know,
know.
I think it is a good idea for every practice. Just kind of walking that back because if you do have those big treatment plans, and then I think a lot of people they fall off after, hey, you know, and I'm done with my 12 to 32 visits. I'm done. You know, like that's the model of like, I got my braces, now they're off. Why would I go back to my orthodontist again? And so I think in chiropractic, if you have that, if it's not your primary model, it can be your secondary model for people to transition into. And I think this is exactly what you said. It's the Netflix generation where everything is on auto debit right now. There's tools that take you off your subscriptions because you have so many you don't even know about, you know? So I think that that is the generation that's coming out, especially if you're talking to new families. But I know that there's some practices that are like curve correction and CBP and like all these things that I think that membership model is a wonderful addition to that too.
Yeah. How would somebody price something like that? I mean, would you just take like your standard middle of the row care plan and then just bust that up into over the course of a year or 6 months or something like that? I guess like how would
I
somebody.
mean, we always did it monthly. And so our average visit was $45 to $65. And so you do $50 times four, and then that's your monthly membership fee. And then for family, you just discount it to like, hey, maybe it's $40 a person if you have one or more people signed up.
I love it so much. Like the listener, I'm sure is somebody that's probably already in the care plan or the typical care plan, because that's how most people do run their businesses for the most part.
Totally. Yeah.
And every time it's like the care plan's up, you're essentially having to resell this patient. Obviously, if you're a really good practice, you were already pre-selling them all the way leading up to the end of this care plan. But like you're creating multiple sales frictions versus a membership is like there really isn't unless their credit card expires.
It's just easy.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. And then that's where whenever I would go from months that were like peaking and then they would drop and peaking and it was stressful as an owner because you're like we still have all like a business to run, but I think it really just took that stress off of my plate of saying, you know what? Here's our membership income and that stays very consistent from month to month.
yeah.
So,
So you have a very interesting community of, I think, hundreds of other chiropractic business owners that you connect with on a regular
mhm.
basis. I'm
Oh
wondering,
yeah.
of all these practices, what would you say is like the thing people struggle with the most when it comes to trying to grow their practice?
I think it's an internal state, you know, from hosting these retreats all the time to now shifting into a mastermind for only women chiropractors. Um, you're only as clear and powerful as the energy that you're conducting through your nervous system. And so I think that a lot of us are living outside in of like, oh wow, like her practice is like millions of dollars a month and she's on a yacht and blah blah blah. Like, or like, hey, like she's working one day a week and is a homeschool crunchy mom and like I want that, you know. And so I think there's a lot of that outside in. And I think that the biggest shift that I have found from people is to turn everything off and to transition to the clarity of your life and what God has for you. And so getting quiet, like we just did a master class for this um, in our mastermind yesterday, and it was such a good reminder of saying, you know what, step away and get the clarity of what you need and what's good for your life. Because once that's activated, that things will start to flow and move and grow. And so I think that that's the biggest thing we struggle with is maybe comparison. Maybe we're on social media too much, like speaking for myself too, of like, you know, if we just have that moment of clarity in that quiet space, then it's automatically going to be different. Like it's just, it's not going to be her practice. It's not going to be somebody else's. It's going to be like the beautiful design that is coming through you,
Yeah.
not outside in.
I gotta imagine people struggle to figure that out though. I've
Oh,
often,
yeah. It's like a
yeah.
lifetime worth of work,
Yeah, yeah. Because I've often said that it's the getting of the thing. If you're okay for this audience and the people that I hang out and spend time with are typically, ambitious people, we'll say. And for that crowd of people, the getting of the thing that they want is actually the easy part. The hard part is figuring out what you want. Unless I think maybe you think otherwise, but like I have found that to be true again and again is like making the space, finding the clarity. Obviously, it's always going to be foggy and confusing, and you're never going to get it exactly right. But how does, I mean, I guess realistically, is that a big part of the retreat? Is like helping people find that space and tap into that? Or like, how do you walk somebody through figuring that out for themselves?
Well, I think that anytime you step away from your natural rhythm in life, like your day to day, you're
Mm.
automatically put somewhere. Like we're about to go to Greece. And every time I go to Greece, I have a new idea because it's so beautiful and you're inspired and you're around all this like amazing food and company and people. And so I think it just naturally happens whenever you are one stepping outside of your day to day. Because if you're packing school lunches, getting kids to school, going to your practice, like you're in that rhythm of the day to day, the creativity does not have space to live. And so, anytime, if it's just a long weekend with your spouse or solo to just go to a hotel and say, you know what, this is just like changing my environment, and that creativity tends to flow. Or maybe your brain just needs to rest because that I took 6 months from the sell in my practice to actually get back into wanting to create and build mode. So just honoring those natural rhythms of, you know what, there's rest and then there's build. There's rest and then there's build. Like we're cycles. Like you're just like, okay, this is a building cycle. This is a resting cycle for us. But yeah, big part of what we do on the retreats, but I think it comes naturally and you could implement, you don't have to go all the way to Greece. You could go to like the Line Hotel in Austin and enjoy a weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting how rare we actually take the time to do the things that are actually probably going to grow our business.
Yeah, right? Because the more you grow, the more your business grows.
Right. Um, what do people typically say at these retreats? Like, I guess, especially when their guard's down, right? Is like I'm thinking to myself of maybe what they tell their friends, or maybe what they tell their patients, even, or their other coworkers, or when they're in the day-to-day grind is probably very different than the challenges they maybe talk about when they're actually at the retreat. I'm just curious as to, yeah, what are the topics that come up?
Oh, hundreds, literally. We've hosted 47 of these international retreats in 2 years or 3 years. It's amazing how much people will open up to strangers because there's no judgment. And that's been the most fascinating thing for me to witness is, you know what, like, yeah, you're like-minded, you're chiropractors, or we've had all sorts of professions on the trips. And for somebody to completely let their guard down and cry in the arms of their spouse and be like, you know what, like we're not communicating or we're having troubles in our marriage. There's so much happening here that we're just trying to hold it together for our business. All the way to I am burnt out. I don't like my spouse. I don't like my kids. I don't want to be here anymore. And it's a weekend of silence and peace for them. And then there's also like, hey, like I'm celebrating because this was the largest month in our practice and I'm treating myself to this adventure. We have heard every single conversation.
How have things been for you then, as like being somebody that was in that position, building the
Mhm.
practice, struggling, trying to figure out if you should hire or open another location or what you should do, to now like being the, I guess, the safe space for them to
Mhm.
go and get away from the practice, I guess you could say? Like, how's that been?
I don't know. Like and the cool thing about these trips is we always have a co-host, somebody who's like teaching and like the CEs and things like that. But I think it's really nice to be somewhere for somebody to look at you and say, "Hey, I've been there and I know exactly what you're going through."
Mm.
Or, you know what, you're not the first and you're not the last. Like I've talked to a lot of women who are either going through divorces or they're starting that process, and it's just you feel so isolated, like you name it, postpartum depression, like anything and everything there, you feel alone because you don't feel seen. And so I think that, I mean, the little time I've had here to like practice and build and do the things I've done is to actually use that and say, you know what, like you're not alone. Like you're not the first, you're not the last to go through this. Like there is somebody that is leading by example that has done it. And sometimes it's like, hey, get on the call with her. Like she can walk you through it, or Corey can definitely take you through this. Like just knowing, and that's the biggest thing too, is just having a network of incredible people, especially in chiropractic or in business, to connect people with. Kind of like in my practice, like you need acupuncture, go see your acupuncture. And
Yeah.
that's how I think I love building my community.
For the practitioner, I guess then that's like grinding, which I'm sure you talk to and speak to a lot
Mhm.
of, and obviously probably come to these retreats to try to get away from the grind for a moment. What's like the question or the path forward for them, or like what's the question they should be asking themselves, or like how should they, I guess, even just be thinking about if they are that type of person that is, grinding in the practice, working 10-hour days, 6 days a week, even if it's not treating 6 days a week, they're definitely working in the business 6 days a week. It's like, what is the path forward for them, I guess, or how do you help somebody through something like that?
So we start every retreat with a 10-year future cast, and that's a meditation. And so it's really getting quiet and walking them through an entire meditation of meeting themselves in 10 years, and letting it be a mirror and a reflection of, is this who you, or who is this person? One. And then two, whenever we come out of the meditation, it is a, hey, everything that you're doing that is not in alignment with this future version of yourself is just a distraction. And it's penciling down, what does success actually look like? Because some of us are chasing a carrot that we'll never catch, because our success is built on somebody else's definition of what it should be. So I think the biggest thing that we do is say, you know what? If you are grinding right now, at what cost? How many kids' basketball games have you missed? How many like moments with your spouse are you just throwing away because you're putting your business above all things? And how can we reorder those priorities to where success is coming and flowing through you? And it's more of an inside out experience rather than, you know what, I'm going to grind and get to 1 million and all this stuff and all that. But it's like, at what cost?
Everything has a price.
Everything has price. You're right.
It's interesting how like what we think we want oftentimes isn't true once we eventually get there, right? It's the
And
hedonic,
that
it's the
literally,
hedonic
that's
tumble.
happened to
Yeah.
me 100 times of like, oh my gosh, like I have summited this mountain and I am here. I have made that number. And it just, you look around, you're like, the toast is still burnt.
I still feel the same as I did yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true.
Because I mean, that's ultimately, consciously or subconsciously, we're chasing a feeling always,
Mhm.
right? It's the feeling that I don't know if you're a Joe Dispenza fan, but he
Oh,
talks.
huge. Yes.
Yeah, he talks a lot about that, about like, don't just visualize what you want to achieve, but actually physically feel it. Because like realistically, like that's the thing you're actually trying to do, is you're trying to feel something, whether it's a sense of security, whether it's a sense of admiration or power, or I don't know, whatever your thing is. Everyone's got something different. But
And
yeah,
to speak to that, like I stopped setting goals and I set moments. And so there's a moment that I'm working for in my life that encompasses everything that I'm doing on a daily basis.
hmm,
So instead of like, oh, there's my top 3 goals to get to like where I want to be in life, it's like there's this moment that I'm working towards that encompasses everything. And I think that really shifts the energy that you're putting out there for manifestation, but also your internal state. Whenever you're working, it's not like a numerological like list that you're working yourself through. It's real life.
interesting. Um, so how has this been? So are you still involved in the practice you sold? You are?
Yeah, I'm done in September. And so it was a 6 month transition period. And so I go in once a week, every Wednesday until September, and then I'm fully done.
So that was part of the deal, was like you're going to stick around and help provide any like coaching
Mhm.
or mentorship required until you can officially step away, correct?
Yep, totally.
Okay. How has that been for you then? Like how has it been for you to let this child go, I guess you could say, and move on to this next venture? Because I mean, as any business owner knows, you said it earlier, is that it does in a lot of ways feel like a child. Like you spend, it's sunk cost is what it is, right? Is like you spend so much time and energy on it that you feel like it's important, even if it's not anymore. But I'm just curious how that transition's been for you.
It's a duality. And so I think that One, the biggest thing, letting go and saying goodbye, not goodbye, but a lot of these patients have been on my table for 10 years, and you have built these relationships and you've seen their babies be born to their first day of like kindergarten. And that has been the hardest thing. But I will tell you on the flip side of that, when you're ready, you're ready. And it has opened up 94% more creativity in my brain to do what's next. And so I think like taking that weight off of my shoulder of, like payroll, marketing, this, that, like all the things that like the business is automated, but at the same time, you're still worried and carrying it, like you're carrying that load of the business. And so that has been the most exciting part about it. And I say that far outweighs the hard and the letting go, because that's every season of life. It's just, if we're not changing and growing, then we're dying. And so I think that this is just an evolution of, these were incredible relationships, an incredible season. And now, like, being fully capable to step into what's next is really exciting.
And what is the problem you're ultimately solving for people with this like next evolution of your business with the retreats and the community and all that aspect of like, who's it for, I guess?
It's for, a lot of it is targeted towards women. But also it's a lot of pain points so I started an AI agency as well, and getting to understand that we are in the most exciting time as chiropractors, business owners, to one, have it all. Because I think that with the tools that are out there and the capable that you're able to leverage will give you that freedom and the ability to actually be present while your business is superhuman. And so I think that there's an aspect of my one business of the mastermind of really nurturing women in the profession, like the ones that have just graduated the first 5 years, and then also bringing that mentorship to them. Because we have over 60% of women going into schools, and after 5 years, so many, almost half of them are out of practice because it's a male dominated model. They're wanting to be mothers. It's just incongruent with their lifestyle. And so it's really causing a lot of women to step back, or step into a very stressful environment in motherhood. So I think it's like learning from my own mistakes and really giving that gift of like, hey, I've been there. Let's make sure like you can build something by learning from all these other women who have gone before you.
And what are you teaching them from an AI standpoint? I got to imagine this is a topic that probably comes up in a handful of
It's so
conversations.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just did a master class a few weeks ago on building your AI executive assistant. And so I walked them through a course and a class at 20 minutes. You build an executive assistant that's all run through WhatsApp. And so it's checking your emails, it's giving you a curated list every Sunday of your top 5 CEO priorities to do that week. It's because I think that there's a lot of headspace issues whenever you're trying to do it all, of being a mother and doing and like growing and all this stuff, that if you just had one thing telling you, hey, these are your top priorities for growth, these are your top priorities that you could be doing, and then you press a button and it handles it all for you. And so I think just clearing up and opening up headspace is one of the most valuable things that I'm teaching in that agency. And then also, if there is a repeatable task in your life or your practice, AI should be handling it.
What is the top task you see docs get off their plate first? Or what are the things they should definitely not be doing within their business?
I think the biggest thing is content creation, email marketing, LinkedIn posts, like all those things that if you're not outsourcing it already, being able to build your own platform within your practice that does it automatically. And you can do that on some aspects of it, but it looks like AI and it feels like AI. And so I think that there's an art form to really making things be authentic and that is still you, because I think we're also stepping into this next generation of people are craving real when everything is going to feel really fake
Yeah.
and computer generated.
Yeah, so I try to do lives a lot more often these days. What's Base 44? What is that?
So that's a no code platform, and it's where I teach and build everything on.
Okay.
Claude, I think, is great, and if you're using it, amazing. But just try Base 44 because it can build apps, it can build websites. You throw your website in there, revamp it, and it can optimize your own SEO, and then you can build your own backend CRM off of it. And so you can build literally anything. And so I've been monetizing AI to just specific businesses and networking that I've been doing. For example, I just built a $8 billion investment portal for a private jet company. And it's just a living, breathing investment portal that that company is using now to raise capital to acquire airplanes and build airports. So it's just like, okay, like understanding businesses' needs and then being able to say, did you know that I could build that for you? And it will be like 10x off of your plate of like time and resources. And it's a fraction of the cost. So that's been a really fun thing to do over the past few months.
So wait, you're doing some industry agnostic stuff using the AI tools?
Oh, majority is industry agnostic. Yeah,
Okay. Wow. Industry
for
industry.
sure.
For the listener, for the Cairo owner, what would you suggest to them to like maybe they are fearful of AI, maybe they don't really actually know how to use it, maybe they aren't even sure where to start. Like what suggestions do you have?
I think the biggest thing is just start playing with it because the more that you start working with it, the more it's going to understand you and know what you need. And then you're only as good as your prompts. And so if you're using ChatGPT, if you're using Claude to really work through a problem that you're solving, getting an intelligent prompt to then copy and paste into a no code platform like Base 44, it will save you time, it will save you energy, and you'll be able to create some things that are unreal. Like just like was it yesterday? Yeah, it was at my coffee, and I had a girl text me who I was helping her with her practice valuation, and she was like, "You really need to start a brokerage because it's just a lot of old crusty white men out there, and no, no offense if that's you listening, but honestly, it was crazy." And so I was like, you know what? Maybe I should start a brokerage. And so I spent the morning and I had the idea and I mapped it out with a mind map in my mind and a whiteboard. And then I took that, put it through ChatGPT, started to work through all the things that a true brokerage needed. And then I took that prompt, perfected it, copy pasted it, put it into Base 44. And it's a full, and you are allowed to, like, you can connect your domain. So it's literally a fully functioning brokerage that's live right now that I built in 2 hours. And so it's just like once you understand what, and it is terrible for someone like me because I'm like, oh, I can create this and this and this and this. And so that's where I had a mentor speak into my life, and they were like, teach someone how to fish. You know, like instead of like giving them these tools and like telling them these things, become the source of education for these people to actually learn how to do it themselves. And I think that's the most powerful thing.
Yeah, it's a builder's dream right now. I mean, I could list off
Totally.
the number of
Yep.
use cases of what I've done with AI as of recently. It's essentially my second brain at this point. Like the amount of
Yep.
information that is stored on there that I just can always tap back into. The most recent one was we took our cats to the vet recently, and gave AI the entire context of like their medical history and how old they are and how they've been feeling lately and the food they've been eating, and uploaded their recent lab results, and it basically gave us like customizations of like this is the food and this is like the water and this is the supplements and this is the kind of cat litter you should get and blah 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 blah. And it's like
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
this is crazy.
And I think there's two sides of the fence. People who are really scared of like what AI can turn into. Like if you look at the heads of Anthropic and all these people that are like, hey, this needs some guardrails, this needs this. And then you have the other camp of people who are really stepping in and monetizing, or they're just using it to make their business superhuman.
Yeah. I mean, I had a great call with my brother the other day actually about this, and he's in completely different industry. He works, a classic 9 to 5, and he's been using it in his classic or his typical W-2 job. And he explained it to me perfectly of like how much he uses it in his day-to-day life of like, it would like somebody not using AI today would be the equivalent of like, instead of going to Google to find your informations, you have to go to the library and like find an encyclopedia and go find the book that has your answer. Like it's just so much less efficient and such a waste of time to not be using AI to get the information that you need and to make decisions faster and to complete tasks faster. Now that it's getting better at doing that, it's like It would be like the internet starting and you're just like, nope, internet's not for me. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
what? Like,
I
it
know.
will
And I
be like,
actually, so whenever I sold my practice, I invested in learning because I was like, I just want to like go back into that phase of schooling myself, of just learning as much as I can. And so I started Harvard's Agentic AI program, and that was the most eye-opening program because it really is, it addressed everything. It was like AI, this, and that. And it was like, it's not coming for your job, it's coming to completely retrain the map of your company. And so it's really like you are able to create employees. So Wanderlearn, for example, I have 10 AI agentic employees that run that business, but I am at the top of those employees making sure everything runs as it should. But it one gives you ability to decrease your overhead, but also two, if you hire somebody, you give them the skill set and the ability to build, grow, and scale, especially in intelligent systems that you would never ever, it would take you a whole team of 10 to 15 humans to actually build something like that. And so it's just really changing. They called it upgrading your mindware. And so whenever you upgrade your mindware of understanding what's possible, then that's where the big shift came in business.
yeah. Yeah. I've realized as I've been obsessively using this for months and months and months now is that you're really only limited now by your creativity or your ability to just like come up with the right idea or the right prompt or the right question. Because like even if it can't do the task or solve it immediately, it can at least help point you in the right direction and you can at least have a dialogue to figure out how to solve whatever problem it is that you're trying to figure out.
Exactly. And that's why I say you're only as good as your prompt. Like you're only, or you're just going to be spinning your wheels of just, hey, like, and creating, and it's just going to be frustrating. But just exactly what you said, you're only as good as that clarity that you have and what you need.
Right. Which so much of that is to your earlier point of like you're gonna have to play with it, unfortunately. But as much as you probably don't want to. But well, cool. Anything else on the AI topic before we kind of shift gears here? I'm just thinking of like I know there's a lot of owners out there that know they should be using it. They're probably afraid of it. They know they should play with it, but they probably just haven't seen like the direct A to B of like how this can actually be helpful for them. I think a lot of people get the basics of the copywriting side of things and like writing emails and maybe ideating or almost using it like a Google. But I'm just like, I want to make sure people understand it maybe just at least one layer deeper of that it's more than just like a second Google search, I guess you could say.
Right. Yeah. I think with agentic AI, that's a very different ball game that we're playing in because it is, for example, I feel so overwhelmed with three kids. We're in a private school homeschool co-op, and so we get probably 10 to 15 emails a day. And with like running all the things that I'm doing, I was just like, I like my headspace is like capped with trying to do all of these things. And so I think as a business owner, start to see where you can free up headspace of things that you can delegate, of things just feel really monotonous or overwhelming to you. And just know that you can build an agent or a personal assistant to take that off of your plate. And so last week, I built an AI agent that basically monitors my email for emails from the school, their sports, and like any extracurricular activities. And then it also plans my lunches and does the grocery shopping and ships groceries to me. And so, so just knowing that, like, and it's so easy, which is the thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have to like teach people this because you can do this in 20 minutes. Like
Yeah.
it is game changing. And then I get a WhatsApp text on my phone every morning at 6:30, and it says, good morning, Courtney. This is Allison. Here's your top priorities for your girls' orientation this week. Here's the lunches that you're going to be packing on Monday and Wednesday. And here's a fun thing to do in Dallas for your homeschool day of
Mm,
events coming up. And so it's just like, and it's just knowing that that part of my life is handled because I want to show up fully there. Like that's where in the past, like I had missed so many orientations and so many things because it was just a missed email because I was so busy doing other things. And so just knowing that as a business owner, think of your mental headspace, your mental health, and like what you can do to free up that creativity. Because if you're having that space to create and to build, like that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, oh God, the use cases of how I've been able, I literally like just 2 weekends ago, I built literally an entire client portal.
Yes.
And admittedly, it wasn't that hard to anybody who's like fearful of something like that, that we use
Mhm.
for our clients to log in and track progress and give,
Oh yeah.
check updates. And it's,
Mhm.
it's like the use cases are just endless.
And just know, like, I've made over 6 figures in 3 months monetizing AI for businesses and just saying, you know what, do you need this for your business? Cool. Here's a build for you. It's 5,000, it's 10,000, and it's done and it's fully automated. And it changes their business, and they're so happy to pay it because they know to hire somebody to do this would be a 6 month process and 10x of what that is.
Love it. Courtney, this has been great. As we
It's
kind of
been
land this
fun.
plane, where can people find you? What's your plug? What do you want to talk about?
I mean, Dr. Courtney Gowin, we're putting everything through there. Oh my gosh, my name just changed. It's Dr. Courtney Busby.
Congrats.
Busbee. And if you're a woman out there in practice, we would love to have you in our mastermind, She Adjusts Mastermind. If you want to travel with us, Wanderlearn retreats. And then if you want to start building an AI, the Well OS.
Sweet. We'll put that on the show notes. Thanks for doing this. It's been great.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.